Thank you, Madam Chair. I've hesitated to weigh in on this issue too deeply over the years for a number of reasons. It's one of those cases where it seems like everybody in the room knows how to make a baby stop crying, but the person holding it. This flood insurance issue is not rocket science. It's not really difficult proposition to understand. The national participation rate, as we heard earlier, is 31%. You have 31% of the people paying for 100% of the losses. Do the math. If it's good actuarial, you're going to be taking it in shorts every single year. And that's what we've been doing with NFIP. In Florida, the participation rate is 46.2%. And just compare, just for example, in my county where I live, the average premium for private flood insurance is $209. NFIP is $501. The median is $100 a year. The poorest of poor that own a home can afford that. For flood insurance, it's $388. And there's a number of ways they make that affordable, and I'd like, Madam Chairman, if we could have a hearing on that sometime or a discussion. I'd like to bring some experts up here and explain how they do it in Florida. Not that you should do everything like Florida does, but there's a number of reasons that people don't participate in the system. They don't know they're not covered by their homeowner's insurance policy. They don't think that they have a risk. They don't understand the necessity of it. There's a lot of good reasons for that. Mr. Heydrich, your agency is located on a barrier island. And yes, so you know the importance of your customers understanding what the risk is. Yes, in your experience, how has increasing the availability of private flood options affected?
I would say most significantly and what really stands out in my mind is immediately after Hurricane Irma. If you recall, the weather predictions or the storm surge predictions for Southwest Florida were dire 15-foot storm surge as far as 10 miles inland. I had a number of calls, many calls in the 2 months following Hurricane Irma from clients who told me that they remember the conversation that we had about flood insurance and primarily excess flood insurance. Most of these customers did have a primary flood insurance policy, and many of them through the NFIP. But they realized how much exposure they had and how real that felt, and came to the conclusion that they may have overestimated their tolerance for risk at the time that we were initially discussing the coverage, and then went on to buy either an excess policy or a private policy that would offer them the ability to fully insure the value of their home in a single coverage.
The standard joke around here, NFIP reform every time, means we cut the sales commission for the people that broker the stuff, who have to service it when times get bad. How do you think that affects the market?
A reduction to compensation in any application is going to reduce availability. So a reduction in agent commissions is probably going to drive some number of agents out of the program. The NFIP is incredibly complex. Okay. It's way more complex.
That's good. Ms. Lamb, you talk about the problems getting good maps. Have you ever asked to use the Department of Defense maps? They've got every inch of this country mapped. They know every crook and nanny, every swale, everything. National Geodetic Service probably the same. Homeland Security probably the same.
We have pulled some information from multiple resources. Those maps have been made available to us. We've made some requests. But the complexity of a flood insurance rate map and the modeling is a little different than what some of the others do.
Most of the people selling private flood insurance or brokering private flood insurance or insuring private flood insurance in Florida don't use those bogus maps anyway. The NFIP arbitrarily puts people in, puts them out. They all have the same rate. There's no weighted for risk. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's not how we're going to solve the problem. But the only risk to NFIP that going more to the private market would give is it would stop NFIP from going further in the hole and being a burden on the taxpayers. The coverage would really be more affordable for more people if we would do that. And I want to share with you, while the insurance companies are used for standard homeowners insurance policies and storms to use a 100 or 150-year term in their forecast, they have to use a 400-year catastrophe for flood insurance when they go to their reserves. So it's not a bait and switch. And Mr. O'Mara, you indicate we should have all our rates based on the future effects of climate change and ocean rising and stuff. That's kind of like making me be rated as a driver 20 years ago, from now when I'm 90. I mean, that's ridiculous. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back.